But again, welcome everybody. As you come in, you'll be just muted. If you need to mute or unmute, feel free to ask questions in the chat. We'll have everyone kind of responding for today, and then we have a session of kind of going through. So I just want to kind of go into what we've got going on today. Let me pull up my PowerPoint really quick. All right, so again, welcome as we work our way through. If you have any questions along the way, feel free to send them in the chat or respond to them, or also raise your hand and I'll call on you and we'll get them all answered by everyone who's presenting today. So I just want to kind of give you an overview of the schedule. Overview of the schedule for today is we have our introductions and our Dean's Welcome. And then we go to last day of attendance and grade reminders, to the library, Trio and Center for Student Success, and finish off with attendance reporting reminders and retention alert. Before we kind of get going with Dr. Butler's start, I just want to thank David Mosby for popping in, as he's a building coordinator in McDivitt Hall, and then Heather Willits, of course. You guys know her because she has been around a lot. She is in Burt Walker and is helping everyone as we work our way through. And then we also have our presenters for today. So I'm gonna stop my share and I'm gonna give the floor to Dr. Butler.
Thank you, Tom. This is so organized and well run. Does Zach need to go first? I know he has, he's on a timeline here. Do you need anything, Zach? Can jump in there?
You go right ahead, Dr. Butler. I'll fall in after you, sir.
Okay. I have a rather odd thing to share with you this morning, and I guess I'll just jump into it. I love coffee. I just love coffee. It's my lifeline. And here we go. So, and I'm a pour over guy. So I'm really a coffee snob about things. I got to get up. I got to grind the coffee. I got a little tea kettle that my wife got for my birthday it shows me the exact temperature of what I need the water to be. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous, but it's my life. And so I wake up and I do this pour over in the morning, and I make the coffee for both of us and make sure the coffee cups are warmed and everything is perfect. And then we sit on the porch in the morning and we look out over the fields and we share this coffee together. But there's something that really odd happens, and it doesn't happen every day. It just happens once in a while, once a week, maybe more than that. For some strange reason, sometimes when we do little household items, maybe it's getting things out of the dryer, or maybe it's folding laundry, or doing the dishes, or pulling stuff out of the dishwasher, we're reminded of something, and it happens to us again and again. And I don't know if that happens with you ever, or if it's just me, but it is a frequent thing when I am making coffee in the morning that I think of ISW. Can any of you just either raise your hand or hit your participation button if you have went through ISW? If you don't know what it is, then you haven't went through it. Let me just see some of these. Not very many folks. Okay. ISW is the Instructional Skills Workshop, and I just saw one there. Just a handful of folks. Mary, okay. ISW Instructional Skills Workshop. It's just a wonderful time to be together, and it's intense because you're watching people change right in front of you, thinking about their pedagogy, beginning to see themselves anew, thinking about how they want to break out maybe of a mold they've been in too long and walk forward. And it's fantastic. But I don't even think about teaching ISW, which I love to do. It has a lot lately been Virginia Imperial, Finch Roberts, Brian Newberry, and others who've been leading that charge. What I think about in that mornings when I'm making coffee is how I used to make coffee for ISW. And it's just a strange thing to think about. But it is something that I greatly enjoyed. I would get up early. I would gather food stuff at the grocery stores. I would come in and prepare ISW, whether we were out at Merkel, if we were in BW or wherever we're at, I would take extra care to make the best coffee I could, because somehow I wanted to say to adjunct instructors who are coming into ISW, you are valued. And I know that seems silly. That just seems like a really silly thing. But so often you only hear from me or people like me when you're late, right? When something didn't go right, when some student is going haywire in your class. And I just needed you to know that I think about you on a weekly basis. And I say a prayer for you when you come to my mind. And I am thankful for all the work that you do. And I can't wait till we're back together so that I can show you some hospitality again. It is wonderful to be able to come in and to meet and greet and to catch up and to see actual smiles, not what I imagine as a smile underneath somebody's mask. We will get back to that day, and we'll get back to a day when I will hand you a cup of coffee that was specially made for you. But until then, know that you're thought about, know that I appreciate you greatly, and looking forward to a great semester with all of you. So welcome to whatever this year holds. I know we got it. Thank you, Tom.
Thank you, Dr. Butler. And we will, like I said, it's a great time to be, and we've got fall semester. Really excited to kind of see everybody. Just great housekeeping things on Central Campus. As you're coming to Central Campus, we do in Burt Walker. We do have the Adjunct Learning space up there, where you have my office right there. Heather's right there if you need any questions, or if you have any questions about your JetNet shell or JetNet course. Dr. Brian Newberry is right. His office is right there too. And we can always have meeting spaces that are safe and working through, because because Burt Walker, it doesn't have classes on right now, so we have a lot of spaces. So that's a great start. And then kind of moving into this, I'm going to let Zach go next. Zach, do you want me to share that PowerPoint?
Yes, please.
Okay, perfect.
All right, thank you. Hate following Dr. Butler. Dr. Butler, that was excellent. And hopefully we get back to that point sooner rather than later. I think we all feel that way. So everybody, my name is Zak McNitt. Some of you may know me, some of you may not. I'm the registrar at Jackson. And I'm going to be talking to you today about attendance and student participation. But my role at the college is pretty broad, and I want you to know that I'm accessible to all of you at any time. So don't ever feel that you can't reach out to me. Any type of a registration issue, a roster issue, student not showing up on your JetNet account, or someone that you feel should be off of your JetNet roster, anything like that, you can feel free to reach out to Tom or reach out to me, and we'll be happy to look into that and get you an answer. So Tom will have all my contact information. If any of you need me, please call, please email, and 100% try to take care of any issues that you may be having. I appreciate you all attending this morning. So I'm going to go ahead and jump in. So I'm going to talk to you about attendance and participation reporting. And this is a little different. This is not about taking attendance every day, about how do I do my daily attendance. This is kind of a broader conversation, and it's extremely important. You as adjuncts, just as our full-time faculty, you are responsible for the verification of your own roster. Okay, so what that means is that you are responsible for determining who is in your class and who is not. And it's extremely important that we do that. Every class that we offer that you will be teaching has what's called a census date. And if you don't know what the census date of your class is, do not worry about it. The dean's office will send you a communication of when your census date is. Okay, if you're teaching a 15-week class, it's normally day 9 or 10. If you're teaching a 7-week, it's normally day 4 or 5. So that'll be sent to you. And why is the census date important? The census date is your lock-in date. What that means is once the census date passes in your class, your roster becomes final. That means that bills lock in, it means that financial aid hits accounts, and it means that we report those students to the National Student Clearinghouse as attending. So it's extremely important that you are verifying who's in your class and who's participating, because we don't want to assign bills, and we definitely don't want to assign Title IV funds or financial aid funds to student accounts that are actually not participating. Okay, So we're going to start with the picture on this slide. You'll see the two things that Mr. Largent has highlighted. The first one has a never attended box. The other one has the last date of attendance box. We're going to start with the never attended box. So if you want to drop a class or drop a student from your class, someone is not participating, they haven't showed up. So if you're teaching face-to-face and they're not there, or you're teaching an online class and they're not submitting assignments, they're not logging in, they're not doing introduction, anything like that, they're just not showing you that they're active. If it is before your census date, we want you to click the never attended box, okay? Now, what I would tell you to do is, if you're not sure, you're like, I know I'm teaching a 7-week class, it's only been 3 days, I haven't heard anything, maybe I'll just leave them in another week and we'll see what happens. Don't do that, okay? I would encourage you to drop them if they're not participating, because it is much easier to put a student in your class later than it is to take a student out of your class after the census date passes, okay? It's extremely important that you keep this information up to date, because if we have to return Title IV money back to the government, if we do that too many times, we get in trouble, and we don't want to do that. So if it's during your census period, so from the first day to the census date, and a student has failed to participate, failed to log in, failed to attend, we want you to click that never attended box, okay? Once you do that, it'll submit an automatic request to my office, and then the next day that student will be removed from your course. Okay, so there's nothing more you have to do. You don't have to reach out to Tom and say, hey, I need these people gone. All you have to do is check that never attended box, okay? We'll do questions at the end because there may be some spillover, so we'll have that time. So when your census date passes, now we're gonna move to the last date of attendance, okay? Now, again, this can be tricky for online classes. It can be tricky for CEP classes because of some of the restrictions that we have to do. It's a lot easier if they're face-to-face because either they're sitting there with you or they're not. So the last date of attendance field kicks in once your census period is passed. So that means your rosters are locked in, everyone's been billed, everyone's been awarded, we are on our way, and we are pushing through the semester. So say you're at, week 2 or 3 or 4 of your course, all of a sudden we start losing them. Life happens, students don't retain, it happens in every class. If a student stops participating, stops attending, not doing what they're supposed to do, you would go in and enter their last date of attendance or their last date of participation, okay? And the kind of rule that we put in place here is when you enter your last date of attendance, it should be within the last 2 weeks of when you're inputting it, okay? What we don't want to have happen is it's November and you submit a last date of attendance for a student back in September, okay? We submit 2 submissions a month to the National Student Clearinghouse or the feds to verify rosters. And if it's been more than 45 to 60 days since a student's been attending your class and we report it outside of that 45-day window, we're subject to penalty. So we try to avoid that if at all possible, okay? I don't have a clear-cut answer of, well, should I wait 1 day, 2 days? What should my absence policy be? That's not for me to determine. You should have that in your syllabus. You should be working with your department leads or your full-time faculty to determine what your policy should be for attendance, okay? Now, the reason this is important, again, is financial aid gets transmitted on a percentage basis. So if you have students that you leave in your class, but they're not actually attending, remember, we are dispersing aid and applying money to their account. If you then tell us at the end, well, actually they weren't here, we have to send it back. And that can put us at risk for a federal audit or a federal penalty. So we really don't want to do that. All right. The last date of attendance feature runs from your census date to the last date of withdrawal from the class. And that's another email that will come to you from the dean's office. It'll tell you the last date of withdrawal. Once the last date of withdrawal for your class is passed, it is expected that you submit final grades for anybody that's in your class after that point. That's kind of like your last mark to adjust your roster, okay? So those are kind of the windows that we're looking at there. If you're working between the census and the last date of withdrawal, we want you to submit a last date of attendance. If it's before the census date, we want you to submit a never attended. If your last date of withdrawal is passed, it is expected that you submit a final grade for your student. Okay, now kind of my public service announcement that I give to everybody, because I bet one of you on the call will do this. You see the tab right next to the last date of attendance that says final grade. That's where you'll enter the final grade for your students. Do not enter the last day of the course and then enter final grades for all of your students too, because that happens. We always have instructors that go put final grades in, and then they mark the last day of the term as the last date of attendance for their class, and then they end up dropping their entire class on the last day of the term. We don't want to do that. So if you're ever entering a final grade, the 2 columns next to it should be blank. We don't want any information there if you're entering a final grade. Now, I know there's caveats with that with CEP because of our corrections program. If you're a corrections instructor, because of some of the limitations we have about access, it looks like we're going to be able to start being let in on a little bit more of a regular basis. More information to come on that. I know it's tougher with attendance with that when you're trying to do JPay outreaches and we have packets being delivered and picked up. I would ask that you just do the best you can. And if you're not getting JPay responses, or you're not getting packets returned to you from the students when our CEP team does pickups, go through and check these boxes, okay? Now, the last thing I'll say, there's exceptions to every rule. I think we all know that. If it's day 6 or 7 of a course and you're realizing, crap, my census day was day 5 and the student hasn't attended, go through and hit your never attended box. You're not going to get in trouble. We can process it and fix it. It's not ideal, but we definitely want to fix it sooner rather than later. And if you have questions on that, again, don't ever hesitate to reach out to my office or reach out to Tom, and we can do what we can to try to help you. So with that, before we kind of get into the nuts and bolts of it, which Tom and Monica will take give you some additional information. What questions do you guys have for me? I see some in the chat. I'll see what we got going on here. All right, so Tom, you answered the first one. CEP, I know it's difficult with the JPay. Absolutely, I hear you. We're just going to do the best we can until we can get back in, report as accurately as you can and get it to my office, and we will make those changes. I know it's not going to be perfect in corrections. Tom, you hit the retention alert. Monica will handle retention alert for navigators, so we'll hear about that in a second. Okay, so with that being said, those are all the questions in the chat. Is there any other questions for me?
Zach, I'm going to share the email that Karen sends out.
Excellent. Let's go ahead and do that real quick. Absolutely, Tom. Thank you.
I got that yesterday.
Perfect. Okay, so you'll see here in this email, every instructor for every course gets one of these, and you'll see the dates highlighted. Okay, so you'll see census date at the top, last date of withdrawal at the top, final grades are due at the top. That's going to kind of be all of your triggers. Okay, so if you're operating before that census date, we want the never attended. If you're operating between the census date and the last date of withdrawal, that's where we want that last date of attendance of when they were last participating or last in your course. And then obviously once that last date of withdrawal passes, we want a final grade submitted for all of your students. Thank you, Tom, for showing that. It's very helpful for context. Are there any questions after seeing this? What's going to come from the dean's office?
Okay, Paul Hanks is asking a question.
Oh,
he primarily teaches in CEP. Is it true that when a student fails, that the last date of attendance must also be entered on the final grade entry page?
That's an excellent question. And institutions have an option to do that if they want to. Jackson College is not one of them. Okay, so there are other schools, if some of you adjunct to other places, that if you fail a student, that date comes up. Jackson College does not do that. So if you go through and enter a failing grade for a student, you are not required to enter a last date of participation or attendance. That's a very good question. Do we have any other questions right now? Okay, so with that, thank you everybody for attending this morning. I very much appreciate everybody's time. And again, if you ever need me or need access to me, please reach out to me. Reach out to Tom. I'm happy to assist all of you. I wish you all the best of luck this term as we get back going. And as Dr. Butler said, hopefully we can get back to kind of more of a norm of what we're used to soon. And we can get to know everybody and meet everybody in person. But thank you everybody for your time. And Mr. Largent, I will send this back to you, sir.
Thank you, Zach. And with our schedule changed a little bit today, we're going to go right into the library services. So with Jennifer Adams, our wonderful director of our library. So let's turn it over to her.
Hey, everybody. Nice to see you. I know some of you are new and some aren't. I'm going to try to give you information that's helpful to all of you. Really glad to be back. We've seen a few students on campus and we just want to like grab them. And so I'm going to tell you some information about the library, how we can help you, and then how we can more directly help your students. So I'm going to share my screen. Okay. So one of the first ways, well, I guess I want to connect you with this guide that Jen Fierro has created. It's the Faculty Resources Guide, and it has a lot of different things that will be helpful to you. Hopefully in a minute you can see this. Okay. And the URL is at the top, but I will show you a different way to access this. So there are various tabs here that are helpful to you. I'm not going to go through all of them, but one of the main tabs is for library instruction. We are still doing instruction, definitely. And we can come in your class like the old days, or we can instruct via Zoom. And I like to tell you all that we can customize this however you would like us to. We are not going to go in there and have a set of library items that we demand. It's whatever you need for your class. Sometimes we focus on citations, MLA, APA. Sometimes it's how do I know if this is peer reviewed? Fact finding, how do I evaluate these resources? It can be 20 minutes, 45 minutes, whatever you want. So I just want to make sure you're aware of that. And this instruction tab here has a request form, and this is the best way to request those sessions from us. And I'm not going to get into CEP at the moment because we are kind of in flux with that. We are not at the pre-pandemic phase where we do research requests individually. I'm not sure if we're going to get back to that, but we have done research packets, the overall packets for English 131 and 132 for the current semester. And I'm going to send you all copies of those. Whoever teaches those classes, I will send you a copy of those. So that will be coming soon. I just got those to the print shop Friday. But the other tab I wanted to show you real quickly is we have this online professional development resources tab. It's just a helpful tab. And Jen has put together some different tools, outside of the box things that you might not necessarily think of. A lot of our databases provide webinars. And by the way, we now have Art Store, which is a huge database of art images, thousands, which I'm really excited about. If any of you have art related teaching, it's kind of an addition to our JSTOR database, but these are webinars, videos that'll help you use those tools. We have some of these software companies that Jen has to teach you how to use the tools that you already have access to. And of course, OER. Jen is excellent at locating open educational resources. So reach out to her if you want some help with that. It's just a little something I wanted to throw out there. We have a lot of ebooks that instructors aren't aware of for online instruction. Here are a few right here. And if you log in with your JC credentials, the ebook comes right up on your, oh, of course you have to log in first. I think I'm gonna have to do this push to yep. We have this totally secure system now. Hold on. Okay, should pop up in just a second. Yeah, I just wanted to give you a snapshot of kind of what an ebook would look like on here in case you've never accessed them. This one I think was published just a few years ago. It has really good information. You can download the book or certain chapters, read it online. I just wanted you to know that these things are available if you do a quick search for online education resources and teaching. So a little shameless plug for those. So let's go back. Next, I want to show you Canopy. A lot of you know about Canopy. I'll never stop trying to spread the word about Canopy because it's fantastic. Now, I wanted to let you know that, as you can see at the top here, I hope, they have added an essential campus collection. Let me see if I can get back to that. It's going to come in a minute. So Canopy, if you haven't accessed it, it has over 30,000 films. A lot of them are fantastic documentaries from HBO, and we have a lot of Criterion Collection films. It's a great resource. All of the films in there include citations, which I love, and I just highly encourage you to explore it. And we are more than happy to curate a collection for you. Let me see if I can. Here we go. We have the great courses. Those are excellent. Multi-films collections of like 16 videos. But I wanted to show you real quick. We have a Black Lives Matter collection. The Essential Campus collection is just something new that I think they did a good job with. So in this collection, we've got critical race and ethnic studies right at the top. I've gone through some of these. They're fantastic. We have women's studies, film studies, lots of different things. But as far as the great courses, just want to touch on this real quick. Like for instance, this series has 24 episodes and they're all fairly recent and they're just a fantastic resource. So Canopy is a good resource, and we can, and of course you can embed it right in JetNet. The only thing it cannot do, you can't download these, which I know CEP struggles. You guys struggle with trying to get films. So I am still working on that. The other thing is this is clearly more arts-based, and we need some STEM streaming video, and we're looking into that right now. And if you guys have any suggestions of vendors we should try to look into, we are completely open to that. So please don't hesitate to do that. All right, next. Okay, we know that you don't always have a lot of time to teach your students certain concepts that students are kind of expected to know when they get into, let's say, English 131, research skills, citation information, plagiarism, things like that. Well, we've created a number of tutorials for students that are really shortened versions. And the really great thing is these are available, these are point of need tools. So if a student needs help on citations, how do I do this? What is plagiarism? They can just click on one of these and learn this quickly. It's a mini assessment. And these are actually things that you can assign as assignments in your class. So we encourage you to use them. And one of the greatest ones is we have this evaluating resources tutorial. But before I get into that, this is part of our Think Like a Fact Checker guide. Jen has done this too. Jen is like the Renaissance woman for me. And this guide, I'm sure you'll agree that with all the mis and disinformation out there now, this is more important than ever. This has been kind of one of our main jobs over the last couple of years, is to teach students what's real and what's not. So Jen has created this guide, and we also have a specific fake news guide here that I created. And there's a part in here that I just want to show you in case you want to do this with your students. We have a game, a factitious game, where students actually look at a newspaper article or something online and try to determine if it's real or not. It's a fun game. I usually do this when I go into classes. So that's another, we can have a session completely devoted to fake news or evaluating information in that way. So just wanted to show you that. So the really cool thing that Jen has created here is students, when they come to this guide, this is the basic fact-checking information. They will look at this, view this brief video, and then take a little quiz on it to test their knowledge. and then actually take the assessment. There's also an advanced version, but all that to say, we like to create tutorials where there are gaps in education for students that you might want us to fill. And if you have any ideas, please let us know. We are very willing to create guides based on what you guys want. All right, next. A lot of you know about our discovery search and the fact that we have 121 at the moment academic databases. Each database is different, lots of different content areas. Our discovery search throws them all together so that students are less overwhelmed by trying to figure out which database to choose for their research. Not only does it combine all of those databases, it's all of our more than 300,000 ebooks, a few of which I just showed you. And we have so much full text here that students can access. And a lot of times, as you know, they'll just jump right to Google, which is fine and intuitive. And by the way, one thing we do teach them when we do a session, we don't shame them. We build on the skills they have. So instead of saying, you know, Google is bad, we're more like, well, you know what? The skills that you use for Google, you got it. You know, you can use these for our databases too. So we're just really trying to build on what they already know. So there's a lot of full text, and there are citation tools, which are fantastic. And students are always really excited about that, because I don't know if you're like me, but when I was in undergrad, there was nothing like that at all. And I'm a little bit resentful of that, but I will get over that. Let's see what else here. So if you've all seen our website before, excuse me, it looks a lot different now. We worked with Ashley Banks in marketing, and she helped us really streamline the searches and have made it very intuitive. We have our search box right front and center in our homepage as usual. And like I've told people, we sort of want to trick students into thinking this is Google, because whenever there's a search box, they always want to plug terms into it. This accesses our databases. But we now have these friendly little bubbles at the bottom, which are hopefully more intuitive than how our website was formatted before. We got rid of all the library jargon. We're just trying to meet them where they are. But for instance, when we have this help link, we're trying to just get to the bottom of what they need right away. Are they looking for a tutorial, for a guide? If you click this, there's a little description of what it is. These are all linkable. We also have, a lot of students had a hard time finding out if they wanted to look for a certain journal or magazine. There wasn't, the way to find that was really buried in our databases. Now we have a link, you know, I want to find National Geographic or whatever, it'll link right to it. And then probably most importantly, ways to contact us. Students can submit a question, schedule a one-on-one virtual appointment, which we do. Not sure if you guys are aware of that, but we have one-on-ones via Zoom with students, and they can schedule that online. Anyone just wants to call. And of course, our library chat over here, which always pops up, is fantastic. Students can get help 24/7, and that will not change. Anyway, if you ever want to take a look at any of these bubbles here at the library, please do. And we also put at the very end here the faculty resources guide, so you have access to that quickly. All right. So really, the last thing I want to tell you is that we are open for business, and we have been since the beginning of August. And what students can expect when they do come to campus is they will have to wear masks at all times, including in the breakout rooms, which they're not so far real thrilled about it, but those are the rules. And the breakout room system has changed a bit, because with our single breakout rooms, we only allow one student per room. In the small rooms, we have 2 large rooms, and we allow 2 students in those. And if students do want to access the second floor rooms, we're talking about doing that, but the rest of WA second floor is not available right now. For the desktop computers, they are completely spaced out. The ones in between have been disabled. We've removed half of the chairs. We sanitize regularly. So we do take the safety of our students seriously. I'm gonna go back for a sec. And we do have our laptop checkout, just like before, textbook reserves. If you guys have a textbook that you'd like us to put on reserve, please contact me. I'll show you that in a second. We're happy to do that. And as usual, we're checking out calculators and headphones, and we just simply sanitize between uses. So our hours have changed a bit. So they are limited. We are now open Monday to Thursday, 9 to 6, and Friday, 9 to noon. We're no longer open on weekends, at least for now. So I just wanted to make you all aware of that, that's changed. And here's my email. And I guess please let me know if you guys have any questions. And I'm gonna stop sharing and see if you guys have any questions for me right now. Oh yeah. Oh yeah, students definitely have access to Canopy with their credentials. We always market that to them. I think that's a nice perk for them. Oh yeah, thank you, Tom.
Jen, I have a question.
Yeah.
So for the CEP program, that research packet, is there a way that there could be like a custom video where you kind of showing students how to read the research packet, or find information like citations? Because the packet we had this past semester, it was very confusing for some students to find who's the author, published title, and all that information that they need to cite their sources. So,
Okay.
and there's no way that instructors can show them, because we don't have the packet until after we submitted the course packet. So is there a way to show a video of how to use the course packet or find information?
I am not sure how we would include a video. I don't know if maybe Todd can answer to that. I mean, I would include kind of like a how-to paper version of this. It would have to be included in the page count. Todd, do you know anything about?
I think a video would be great.
Okay.
There's a couple of pieces here. Brad is finalizing everything, and he said he's going to send it off Monday morning. So we're too late to put a video in right now. That said, things can still go sideways, but as of September 1st, Bobby and his team are going to be allowed back into facilities to begin meeting with students, which means you're all on track to go back in and meet with students somewhere after the 20th. So by that time, we could make a video and bring it in, and you could show it on the laptop in the in your classroom when you're meeting with students. If you're an English instructor, if that was helpful. You may also just want to do it live because you're with your students again. So it's something that we can talk about. And Jen and Nina have been shepherding these types of questions and work, and I can meet with the two of them and we can get a plan together.
Absolutely. I think it's a great idea, Marie. That's a good point. We'd love to give them that information. I'm sure that would be a little overwhelming for them. Yep. All right. Well, thank you all. I will hand it over to Todd.
Thank you, Jen. Thank you, Jen. I think as we are rolling, we'll probably just go right into our next area. I did see Melissa Merkel pop in for TRIO. So we'll get into TRIO and Center for Student Success next. So let me turn this over to Melissa and Monica.
Hi, everybody. How are you all doing? Yeah, I see some waves. There we go. Saturday morning. Okay, so Monica, do you want me to go first, or would you like to go first?
Go ahead and roll with it, Merkel.
All right, we're rolling with it. Well, again, happy Saturday morning or mid-morning to all of you. So those of you that do not know me, my name is Melissa Merkel. I am the director of our TRIO Student Support Services project here at Jackson College. It's an awesome program. So first, I'll tell you some quick tidbits about TRIO and what TRIO does for our students. So TRIO is a national program, and we exist to serve students who are first generation, so who have never, their parents or whoever raised them did not get a 4-year degree or finish a 4-year degree. Or they are income eligible, which means that they are below the state poverty line for the state of Michigan, or if they have a documented visible or invisible disability, or if they are foster youth, then they qualify to be in our TRIO program. And we do serve 150 students. And again, we're funded by the Department of Education, so that's how many we can serve. And we exist to help students to graduate and move into the workforce, or graduate and transfer to a 4-year college. So everything we provide is around that. Oh, thanks, Monica. So everything we provide is focused on that right there. And what we do to help ensure that they graduate and get a job or graduate and transfer is that we support them academically and personally. We become a one-stop shop. But we also refer services and work with other departments on campuses, and we work with our community partners as well. And Monica is showing you our website that has a lot of our services on it. So we provide workshops that are life skills based, academic based. We take them on trips to 4-year colleges. We do cultural outings or workshops. We do lunch and learns. We get them connected with career services, making sure that they're ready and prepping them for graduation. We also make sure we track their grades and we track their financial aid status. So we make sure that they are staying in good academic and financial aid status. So again, we really become that one-stop shop for that student. There are 4 of us that work in the TRIO department, and all 4 of us serve each 150 of those students. So again, it's a great program. We love TRIO here at Jackson College. One way that TRIO will work with you is that every semester, oh, there's my staff. So there's Sheila, she's our intake retention specialist, helps us run everything. Nicole is our academic specialist focusing on math. Myself and Anthony Arena is our academic navigator serving just our TRIO population here at Jackson College. But again, taking a step back to how I will work with you is that if you have a TRIO student in your class, every semester I will email you and say, hi, you have TRIO student Melissa Merkel in your class. And throughout the semester, I may reach out to you at least 3 times and asking you to fill out a really simple form, just to maybe what the student is doing well and what areas of improvement can be made for the student. Because we do follow-ups with every single one of our students, and we discuss how they're doing in their courses, and that's why that is so important in that conversation piece with us. You can also reach out to any TRIO staff member if you have a student in your class and there's something that you want us to work with the student on or something you want to discuss. So our relationship with you is really important, and it helps us to be able to serve the students in the best capacity that we can. So unfortunately, we are full right now. We are at our limit of our 150 students. However, we will be reopening the application in November, but in the meantime, I'll still be doing classroom visits. We can still take referrals and maybe put a student on a waiting list if you have one that is in need. And the other ways that we might work together is if there is a workshop that you think would be relevant that you would love to collaborate with us on, or sometimes we do lunch and learns. We just invite employees of the college to come and meet our students, because we don't want them to be connected with just all of you. We want them to be connected with us and you, because that way they have more people to turn to for support. And another part that I wanted to share with you is on September 11th, we have 41 students graduating, 41 TRIO students, which is huge. We are super excited about that. In TRIO, we really do pride ourselves on the retention of our students and the graduation rates of our students. So I gave you a lot of information in a short bit of time about TRIO. But again, you can reach out with questions anytime. I love to hear from anyone who is teaching a class or working with our students. Again, we really do like to collaborate with other employees at the college. And something I will touch on quickly is that I also am the foster liaison for Jackson College. So that means if you encounter anyone who says that they were in foster care, please direct them to me, because there are a lot of resources that they may not be aware of that can help them while they're at Jackson College. So again, I know I gave you a lot of information. I tried to talk slow, but does anyone have any questions or comments?
I don't see any. So do we want to move on to Monica?
All right, thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Melissa.
Thank you, Melissa. Thanks for joining us today.
Oh, of course. All right, I'm
Sounds
off
like
the
you have a little,
camera.
yeah, sounds like you have a little activity, a little Zachosaurus behind you. I can tell.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Have a good morning, everybody.
You too, Melissa. So good morning, everyone. Tom, I've noticed you've had your video off at some times and some on. At our Wednesday night session, we had some bandwidth issues, but I'm going to turn my video on so that everyone can see me. Good morning. I hope everyone's doing well. I have read a lot of names that are familiar and seen some faces that are familiar, but for those that are not, my name is Monica Bouman. I work here at Jackson College. I think I'm in my 20th year now. So I hired in super young, kidding aside. And I've had the opportunity to serve in many, many different roles here on campus, most recently as the Associate Dean for Student Services. So what that includes are some pretty hefty departments, in my humble opinion, including the Center for Student Success. And that's what we're going to concentrate on today. I also saw that Ariel is here with us. And if I did not see any other faculty names, I apologize, but Ariel, feel free to be my whisper in the dark if you see that or hear that I've missed anything. So can everyone see that? Can I get a thumbs up or a nod? Awesome. Thank you, David, for the thumbs up. So as you can see, the Center for Student Success houses things that you would typically think of, right? Accommodations for students with disabilities, tutoring, the testing lab, supplemental instruction, and those are a few of the things that I'm going to run through today. So first and foremost, I am our institution's Disability and Inclusion Officer. And so what that means is I have the opportunity to meet one-on-one with students that register with me with a documented disability, whether that's visible or invisible. And so with that, we have what's called an intake meeting, and we discuss what accommodations they need inside and outside the classroom. So today, tomorrow, first day of the semester, or a few days before those late start classes, what you can expect from me is an individualized email to you if you have a student that's registered in your course that has accommodations. So again, many of the names I recognize, or you'll become familiar with my name as you'll be getting emails in that regard. So if there's ever any questions, or if you're meeting with a student and you're sensing that they may need some extra support, it's we all probably know that we're not allowed to ask directly if they have a disability. However, there's always that way around that, right? With some leading questions, asking if they had extra supports in high school, if they're a traditional student, or if they're a non-traditional student. Either way, please feel free to refer them to the center. Myself, Ariel, Sandy DeCesar, she's our CSS coordinator. I can go to the contact page so you can get faces with names. There's the lovely Ariel. Sandy D, that's a pretty outdated picture of her, but she's just as friendly looking today. And she would love to help connect that student with the accommodations that they need. Okay, so let's cover tutoring, because that's always the big ask. So tutoring is still a thing. So especially through the pandemic and the time that we're remote, tutoring and supplemental instruction really flourished. Actually, we found a way and developed a way to meet students where they were at. So all of our tutoring and supplemental instruction services went online, and in tutoring respect, online, on demand, and after hours. So, and what we came to find was a lot of students were seeking our services on Sundays, Sunday afternoons, Sunday evenings, and throughout the evenings during the week. So we've continued that service, even though we are welcoming students back to campus and we're slowly reintegrating back to a face-to-face offering. We've come to know what our students' needs are, and so that service will not be going away. So with that said, it's a very simple process. So as you're talking with students, or a student is like, hey, I need some extra help, or they are interested in studying, forming a study group, we use a system called Calendly, which is the same system that they're used to in meeting with their student success navigator. So if they are seeking help, say in Bio 253, they can click on Abby's schedule, and then it will connect them. Hopefully, it's moving a little slow. Hopefully with Abby's schedule, and then they can set up a half-hour meeting with her at a time that's both convenient for them, for the student themselves, and when Abby's available. Let's go to Taylor, because I know she offers a couple of different options. So she's offering right now 30-minute, 60-minute, or an hour and a half tutoring sessions at one time. And then, of course, if it needs to be back-to-back, or if there's additional time, if it's allotted at that time, or if it's available, they can set up a future appointment again. I know a lot of students, some of the tutors and the students create connections, and so they set up recurring tutoring sessions every week. So that was a big thing. I know Calendly might seem like a small thing, but that one tool that we implemented made it so much easier for students because they were already familiar with the tool. So very simple to connect. Again, online, on demand, via Zoom or BibliU button, and then after hours as well. As for our supplemental instruction program, that is very much still alive as well. So the difference between supplemental instruction and tutoring is that these peer tutors, students, are actually embedded in the classroom. So they're seeing and hearing exactly what the students are hearing from their instructor. And then they facilitate 2 outside study sessions a week. That's mainly in math and science. And again, that's also offered in both of our online offerings and a few of our face-to-face offerings too that we're offering this fall. The coordinator for the supplemental instruction department is Terry Anderson. Some of you may know and love him from the developmental ed, math, and reading. And then of course, Stephen Tuckey, I would be remiss without mentioning him. He's our amazing math professor / Raven Endowed Chair for Mathematics. And he also helps us tremendously on the math and science end for the curriculum piece for the program. What haven't I mentioned? Oh, the Writing Center, another integral part of the Center for Student Success. So similar to tutoring and SI, so there's a theme here. So through the, while we had to go remote, we knew that students still needed assistance, not just with English 131 papers, but with papers in general, and then also things like organizational skills, weekly check-ins, test anxiety. The ladies that work in our Writing Center are more than just English 131 or 132 for sure. So I wanted to be sure to show you their contact page. And they come from very different backgrounds too. So they all have different followings. Students gravitate towards some or 3 or 2 of them. Pam is actually a former principal of Jackson High School here in Jackson County. Virginia Imperial is our ELI whisperer, as we call her. She helps students that, a lot of our international students and students that English is a second language. Of course, she can help traditional students too. Kim McEwen, she is a well-known instructor here on campus and also works in our Writing Center. And she talks a lot with her hands, and she's loud just like myself. And we joke a lot that it's hard to be in the same room and be quiet. But again, she's great at connecting with students. And then last but certainly not least, Sandy Schultz. She also is a longtime instructor here and is our plant whisperer of the department. So again, another theme, you can connect with them via Calendly. So when a student needs to make an appointment, whether in person or via Zoom or phone, they can do it the same way they would with a tutor and an SI. Now, while it's, go ahead, Ariel. Are you going to mention the CSS catch-up workshops?
Well, not quite yet. There was a question that came through the chat from Mark that asked, who would he send students to for test anxiety?
Oh, anyone in the CSS is equipped to help with that. Now, specifically, if they set up a one-on-one appointment with one of the writing faculty ladies, it does create, maybe it can help introduce them to other things that they could get tutoring with or assistance with in the center. But absolutely, anyone on this contact list, Harry, myself, Sandy D, if they're going in person at a center, Tennille Fenstermaker helps represent CSS at the Hillsdale Center, and Linda Jacobs helps represent at the LISD Tech Center, and of course Ariel as well. I also want to point out that if they maybe, because I get it, your faculty, you have 3 students in line waiting to talk to you or in a Zoom breakout room, whatever the situation may be. When in doubt, they can email us at the center email, and Ariel, maybe you could drop that in the chat, or you can direct them to this quick little form and then someone will connect with them. So if they don't have time to call in the moment, or if this is an easier route for them, they can simply fill out that quick form and we'll have someone get back with them within a day or 2.
Monica, this is Todd. I just
Hello?
wanted to go back to the question about test anxiety. Certainly the Center for Student Success is very focused in being able to help a student in that area. However, also remember that if the person is anxious in this manner, they may be manifesting anxiety in other areas of their life. And the Oasis is a great place to recommend for that. Yes, a counselor there can talk about test anxiety, but they might also be able to open doors for the student to begin dealing with the anxiety that might be limiting their life in other ways. So just don't forget about that wonderful, wonderful resource that we have here.
Absolutely, Todd. Thank you. That was a perfect segue. So oftentimes what happens is in the moment, the student will come to the CSS or they'll call the CSS, they'll connect with whoever they're meeting with in the center, and organically through that conversation, an Oasis referral is made. That happens quite often, actually. So great point. We are happy to be that referral. Or if you as a professor are sensing that anxiety is something bigger than just the first, exam of the semester, then please, the Oasis is one of the best resources that we have on campus, in my humble opinion. And it gets used. And they're still open and active. I don't believe in person at the moment, but they're still doing phone and face-to-face via Zoom appointments. Last, real quick, before we get into those CSS catch-up workshops, I wanted to cover, because CSS also houses our testing lab. So there was a newsletter that went out Friday from Tom, actually, that will go into more detail. But I just wanted to let you know that the testing lab is open, and we are offering some in person. It's on a limited capacity with our protocols that we have in place currently for Central Campus. However, if you have any testing lab questions or you're interested in that service, if you could connect with Carissa Shea, and her phone number is listed right here. I don't think her email is on here, but it's on the contact page for the Center for Student Success page. Again, her name is Carissa. She's newer with us. She's been overseeing the testing lab for about a year now. She was an integral part of it going online along with Ariel. And so while some testing is still virtual, we do have some capacity for some in-person testing. A lot of that is right now concentrated on things like Kaplan and HESI through the nursing departments. But the best way to navigate that is to connect with her. And then I know, so do we have any questions up, any more questions up to this point before I let Ariel speak to the college catch-up workshops? Awesome. Well, Ariel, if you're so willing, especially with the popularity that they've had, I'll be the first to say I didn't have the highest expectations in terms of how many students would sign up for these workshops. But as of course, because Ariel's amazing, and because they're pretty comprehensive, inclusive workshop, we've actually had to open up more sections, and they've some of the sections have been at capacity. So Ariel, I will let you speak to the college catch-up workshops.
Well, good morning, everyone. Happy Saturday before fall semester starts. I'm so glad you guys took the time out of your day to attend this. I know some of you may still be busy with prepping your courses, so thank you. So I just wanted to give a quick spiel about our workshop. So the CSS was offered this great opportunity to help our students kind of prepare for college. So we're calling them the catch-up workshop. Some people may not think that they're quite ready to start classes. You know, they have the ambition, but they kind of just get a little lost. So some of the things that we help with are helping them log in and get to their JC email. We give them some tips about JC email, reminding them that they need to use it frequently and that any communications to you do need to come from that email, and just some common misconceptions, like they do need to put something in the subject line. So those are some of the things we talk about as far as email. We also help them identify the difference between Jetstream, where most of their financial aid information is, where they register for classes, and then the difference between JetNet, where they will go to log in and actually complete their coursework. We have them access Word. So a lot of students don't know that Microsoft Office is offered to them for free to download on their personal devices. So we walk them through the process of that. We have them practicing saving documents with their last name and first name, or just the practice of renaming them. So that way you as an instructor can identify whose assignment it is when you're working through it. We also have them practice uploading documents into JetNet, clicking on resources through JetNet, and a lot of the other services we offer on campus. So these workshops are still running through next week. If you find a student who needs one and those times don't meet work with their schedule, I have been doing some of them one-on-one for students, because we want to get students ready and give them the best tools that they need. And at any time, if any of those services are needed throughout the semester, you find a student who says, oh, it's week 5, I haven't done any of my assignments because I don't have Microsoft Word, please direct them our way. We'd be happy to help. And at any time, the Center for Student Success, I like to say, is the catch-all. So if you just have questions, please direct you yourself or your students to us. We'd be happy to help.
Thank you, Ariel. Does anyone have any questions in particular about the college catch-up workshop? Ariel, if you'd be so kind to drop, I thought I was muted, but it's you. I'm on the spotlight mode. Ariel, if you'd be so kind to drop the contact information in there for those college catch-up workshops. And then I also had a question come up regarding the counseling. Absolutely, Mark. That's an excellent question. How does one recommend a student for counseling? This is a delicate situation, and in the moment, oftentimes as a faculty is trying to juggle several different things or several different students at the same time, it doesn't warrant that conversation in the moment. So that referral to CSS happens often. There's no straight answer to that, except oftentimes what I find myself doing with a student that is clearly in crisis, or that level of anxiety, like Dr. Butler mentioned, is above and beyond test anxiety, asking if they have someone to talk to. Is there someone that they're talking to currently? Someone that, and then opening up to, sometimes I personalize it. I say, when I find myself in this situation, I find it helpful to talk to someone that maybe doesn't know who I am, is unbiased, doesn't know the whole history, is someone that may have more resources that I may not be able to provide to them, that there is hope, that there is help. There's no script, Mark, to be honest. I've found that as I'm in the conversation with the student, oftentimes the answer presents itself from what I've gleaned from them. And so I think presenting it as a resource that we're offering to all students, maybe so that they don't feel alone. That's one way to present it. I don't know if that helped, Mark. Marie had an excellent point. She makes it ready and available on the actual JetNet course, so that maybe students reading it rather than hearing it from the instructor is a little easier message to digest before they make the leap. Oftentimes, I know that it's not as common an occurrence right now, but given that we are welcoming students back to campus, and also that there are some face-to-face classes on campus in the fall, oftentimes if we have a student in our class, I offer to take a walk with them and I show them the Oasis. I show them that it's not an intimidating place, again, and that it's open for everyone and all, and not just, you know, maybe it's just one visit, which can lead to more. And again, Tom, reading the chat, Tom had an excellent point too. When I mentioned that I personalize it, we all have days where we need to talk to someone, and Dr. Phelan and the leadership knew this. And so not only is the Oasis Center open to students, it's open to faculty and staff as well. Okay, Marie, you're shifting gears on me. I love it. So another question came in regarding accommodations. What accommodations do you have available for CEP students? Excellent question. We have had success in extending accommodations to some of our CEP students that have come forward and wanted to register with me in the office. There are some challenges at times with what the facility will allow. And so it is a conversation that both myself, Bobby often has, and then the facility liaisons have as a unit to decide what and if we can't, you know, I've been able to send in magnifying glasses that are plastic in nature. I've had clearance to send in erasable ink pens. Just giving examples, Marie, to put things into context. Extended time, in some cases, has been workable. Oftentimes that depends on logistics and call outs and what the facility can handle. Did that answer that, Marie?
Yes, and I also wanted to know, is there like any tutoring available for them as well?
Not the long and short of it is not at the moment. Bobby and I have been exploring that for quite some time, and Dr. Butler. However, we, and I do understand that some technology is being introduced into some of the facilities. And if they are allowed, I mean, we can always help over email. I know you guys call it JPay. But in a traditional sense, Marie, no, we're not there. But I always say yet.
Okay, thank you.
Mark is asking if we need to ask the students permission to refer them. Again, Mark, I don't believe so. I think that will come up in the conversation. If it depends on what the students' responses are to you, to be honest. So no, oh, you mean call the Oasis? I wouldn't call the Oasis on the students' behalf. I would call us first so that we can have that more in-depth conversation. Is that what you were speaking to? I'll wait a few moments if you're typing. Call us, which us, CSS us, Mark. So I wouldn't necessarily, again, it's hard to script this out, Mark, unless I had the student with us. What I would recommend from a 10,000 foot view is if you're working with a student that is seeking help or maybe doesn't even know what help they need. Oftentimes students just don't know what they need. And if in that event, send them to myself or anyone in the CSS and we can have that longer conversation with them and then make that formal referral.
And, you know, I jump in here again, this is Todd. And Mark, I'm not at all claiming that you're saying this, just a reminder to us all. I have seen instructors over the years when we, for instance, the referral system, Monica, I've lost the name of the,
the retention alert.
Thank you. When retention alert was instituted, we saw lots of instructors who were just referring constantly, retention alert. Or when we changed to the navigator model, well, we're just going to send them back to the navigator. Really, it's all about our relationship with the student, first and foremost. Forming that relationship, getting to know that student, having the student develop some level of trust with us. And then we then have a much better sense of what that student needs, rather than just saying, oh, this is available, I'm going to constantly refer a student to it. And again, Mark, I know that's not what you were saying. I'm just reminding us all of the importance of developing that relationship, building that trust, and then having a good gut sense as an instructor of how, when, and where I need to refer.
Well spoken, Dr. Butler. Yes, Mark, that does happen. I'm reading your comment about the student in particular that was extremely shy. Yes, we've had several students like that, and it's a lot of coaching type conversations that we have with the students throughout their tenure. Hopefully we secure that relationship piece that Todd spoke to, in hopes that they keep continuing to come back to the center so that we can continue those coaching conversations with them to hope break through some of those emotional barriers or personality type things that they're dealing with as a college student. Absolutely, because it will, that fear will affect her academic and professional future. Absolutely. I have conversations like that often with students. I believe that was it from the chat, but at any time during the rest of this orientation, feel free to either put them in the chat. You can private message me. Feel free to email me, call me. I'm here. We want to help. That's usually just the first step, is knowing if you forgot everything today, which I know I threw a lot at you at once. Just remember myself, Ariel, Sandy DeCesar, anyone in the center wants to help.
Thank you, Monica. With that, we will take a short 5-minute break. So we'll get back here at 10:18 and go with our attendance, just to make sure everything's set from there. So we'll get back here at 10:18. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the chat. I'm going to pause the recording really quick.
Okay, it is just after 10:18, so we will. Can everyone still hear me? I had to change headphones for some reason. Perfect. See some thumbs up. That's good to know. So okay, we are going to get into our last area where we're going to talk about attendance, and then we'll also talk about the retention alert and the reintegration to campus and some information that you may have. I saw a couple questions about that in the chat, so we'll kind of get going. I know we did change how we're doing attendance for fall. That is changed from previous semesters. So I was going to share a PowerPoint for it, and now that doesn't kind of work based on that email from this week. So I'm going to share and kind of walk you through what that looks like in Jetstream. So for doing attendance reporting. Now, Zach talked about last day of attendance and how where we work through everything and what the importance of that. But I want to show you kind of where you're going to report your attendance. So on your side, you're probably not going to see as many tabs as I see, but you will see the faculty tab. And then you're going to see your classes. So you would just pick a, have kind of a pick a class from there. And it'll show your rosters, of course, with all your information for your students and their preferred pronouns. So that's a great option that we've moved forward with the Chosen Name project here at the college. And then you're going to see an attendance feature. Now, since this class has not started yet, as it states in there, it will not have an attendance option, but we're going to be for online sections. So those I1s, for the I1s sections, you're going to see that where you'll submit those by Thursday. Now, if you're teaching a face-to-face class or a synchronous learning class, so an SI section, you will be doing that after every single session within 48 hours of that session. So you'll see every meeting time for your classes for those online classes and for those hybrid classes within this attendance feature, and that's how you'll do your attendance. And how you are marking attendance for your online sections or for your face-to-face is the participation in the class. So whether you have them do a introduction topic in the first week, so you can make sure that students logged in, they are participating in your class. All classes start, on in our system on August 30th if they're the first 7 weeks or a full 15-week course, or even some 12-week classes like Seminar and Life Pathways is. So they'll start, and those classes actually start on Monday, even though you may not meet, for example, if it's a hybrid class, you may not meet until Thursday in the system. It shows up as they're starting on Monday. So you can have those students do introductions before you get into class on Thursday when you see them. Just as a good example for that area.
Tom, I'm going to interrupt. A person is asking that you speak up or maybe move your mic better or turn it up. They've got their volume all the way up and still struggling to hear.
All right, is that better? Okay, that I will turn with that. Okay, perfect. So I'll repeat a couple of those messages from there. Sorry, I was in full screen. Perfect. Okay. So with that, with your attendance for an online class that is purely online, does not have required meetings, you will see the attendance, and you're going to submit those by Thursday every week, as you'll see from that email from Karen Hockner from the Dean's office with your important information for the semester. And then for any class that's a hybrid class, that's a synchronous online section, or that's face-to-face, you will see your meeting times next week as you meet, and that's how you'll do attendance and how you define attendance. One thing that we always suggest for an online course is to make sure that you do have an introduction post or something that shows that the student logs into your class, so you can make sure that you're doing attendance, and for that census state that Zach was talking about earlier, so that you're making sure you're getting that completed so that student does log in and from there. And I know that David had asked that question about JetNet. What does the suspended status mean in there in JetNet? So in JetNet, that takes any student who's ever registered for your class and it brings them into the class. And if that student drops the class, changes a section, gets dropped because they decide not to come here, they'll still show in that class. And that is in case they've done anything in the class and they've changed their mind, or you drop the student the first week because they didn't attend, and then you find out, oh, they had something going on or something was preventing them from logging in. So then you allow them back in, and that student, it starts as they keep all their information, so they're not restarting in the class, especially if it's within this, a couple weeks in the semester, and you're dropping them from the last day of attendance, but they respond to you, and you do allow them back in, as your choice. So that student doesn't restart. So that's why all students are always going to show up in there. In JetNet, in your participation area, you can filter that. So you can filter it by the status for the student by active. So if you have any questions from there. Those are some really big, important things. I know Zach mentioned this a little bit with grading. Another thing, from a previous navigator, from a former navigator, the midterm grades are really important for students too, so they can see that, because midterm grades will push to their jet stream, and also it allows the navigators to view midterm grades for a class, because a student may meet with them and say, yep, I'm doing great in math, or I'm doing great in this class, and they're not doing great, because you can see their midterm grade, and that allows the navigators to have that good conversation with those students when they're registering for future semesters of, hey, what's going on in this course? For example, a lot of them could be like Anatomy Physiology 1, so it's Bio 253. The student struggling in that class, maybe they're going to have to retake it because of their goals, or that does change that conversation. So again, really important. Midterms are really important for students from that aspect. So does anyone have any questions on? And for CEP, it will also be in Jetstream. So it'll be reported by those Thursdays. So it'll be the same exact as this has changed. It will not be the JetNet, of course. So for midterms, I see that question about when midterms are due for 7-week courses. So that you can kind of think when I've taught 7-week courses before, I did like that 3-week, 4-week part, just kind of important so the student knows where they're going on, and then maybe if we know that that student may need to retake it in the second 7 weeks, they can change their schedule potentially for that. They'll change what they're taking in the second 7 weeks. So, yep. So that is like I said, with midterms, it is a pure choice based on the instructor. But we can, for our navigators, they can pull reports on those midterm grades so they can check with their students. And I know we always have one set of students who are failing some courses for the future semester. So it's always a great option from there. Anyone have any other questions about attendance before I turn it over to Monica? Without seeing any, I'm going to turn it over to Monica. And Monica, do you want me to share that PowerPoint?
Oh, sure. That's probably the easiest.
Really good. There we go.
Perfect. Thank you, Tom. So in regards to tension alert, I wanted to point out, and Tom, I'm sure, has either already shared this PowerPoint or will be, or the video. There is a nice video regarding retention alert, how to submit a retention alert case. Retention alert, another phrase or term you could use for it is early alert or intervention. It's a way for the navigators to secure details from the faculty member when there's a student who needs extra help or support. So much like our conversation a little earlier with Mark's questions about, how do we make that referral, or is it sensitive in nature? Every student and every situation is individual. It depends on what course, who the audience is, how many students are standing behind that person or standing in line waiting to ask more questions. And so every retention alert is situational, it's individual. And so with that, I, in addition to pointing out that there is a tutorial video and then a quick 6-step system here that Tom's provided in how to submit a retention alert, I wanted to touch on 2 important things for those who may be new to the retention alert system, or a reminder for those that are veterans of the retention alert system, because it does work. I've seen it work. A lot of it's anecdotal, but it does work. I want to make sure that you as instructors are submitting enough context, enough details in those retention alerts, so that when the navigator receives that retention alert, they have a holistic approach when they try to reach out to the student to take it to that next level, right? Whether it's an OASIS referral, or it's a Center for Student Success referral, or maybe they have another number or another modality, a way to reach that student, right? So with that, there's the other side of the spectrum. So 2 things, like I said. So 1, when you're submitting a retention alert for a student, really try to put as much detail in there as you can, and not something like missed an assignment, and then that's it. That doesn't really give a lot of context, or what types of interventions you've already had with that student. Have you had a conversation with a student? Did you attempt to call and they didn't answer? You know, I hope I'm articulating that properly, but basically as much detail as you can. On the flip side, I also have witnessed in the chat just today, and then outside of today, some of the frustrations from faculty, and they feel like they don't get a response in turn from the navigator. So whether it's to follow up on the case, to let the faculty know that they closed the loop, they were able to connect with the student, whatever that follow-up communication may be. Some faculty and instructors have reached out to me to say that that does not occur. So if and when that does happen, I want you to let me know. Just a quick email, that's all it is. So that way I can intervene, do a little digging, see what the situation was, and then report back to you. So that was, I know that seemed super short compared to my CSS gig, but so details, and then let me know if you don't get any follow-up from the navigator. Does anyone have any questions about retention alert in general, or the two things I wanted to hit home for today in regards to that? Going once, going twice. All right, Tom, back to you.
Okay, so switching gears into what our reintegration task force was tasked with, because I did see a question about if students are allowed to submit on paper to you, and from the reintegration task force that is approved, because from Dr. Matt Badke, who's our specialist in the area, he has determined, you know, they have determined in CDC that paper-to-paper transmission for the virus is very, very, very low. So students are allowed to submit items to you via paper. So I did want to share today what the reintegration task force building plans are if you're going to be on campus. So I just want to share that really quick. I'm going to put the link in the chat too. I just want to share it. It is in our SharePoint system, so you will need to log into your email as you work your way through, but you should have access to all of these building plans. And the reason why we wanted to put them in a SharePoint drive like this and in a Word document, so you can see when it was modified. So there has been changes throughout this week as faculty have been back on campus. You know, as from last weekend from the Reconnection Open House, there were some updates and some items that may have been missed. So we just want to make sure we're updating them and you get the most information, because we know the minute that we print it is the minute that we have to make another change. So I just want to kind of show you where those are located, and I'll walk you through one of those, just a really quick overview of it, so you can kind of review it. There are for every building, so you'll see it for Health Learning, James McNitt, for the LCD Tech Center in Adrian, Justin Whiting out in Hillsdale, and then there was an updated one for James McNitt there. But let's go over the HLC draft really quick. And the cool important things that these have in it, which is perfect for the building information, it gives you all the important information for your building and who you can contact if you have questions. So you'll see, for example, when I was talking about David Mosby in here, you have Becky Bartley, who's the building coordinator for the Health Laboratory Center on campus. And then it will define, so this defines who you contact, and then what your classroom should have. Is you're coordinating those, you know, with building coordinator or with your lead faculty member as you're working your way through. And it does show you the activities that students have. So this says what your activities that you can do inside the learning studio. We call them learning studios because they're not classrooms, right? They are learning opportunities for students. So that's why all these are going to be listed as learning studios in the system, and they'll all have their different colors based on the building's requirement to work our way through. Now, this is just standard for classes. If there is something else that you're looking to bring in, something that's not typically in your class, there is a reintegration request that you would work through so that you can get that request approved. And it also says what students should be wearing in class, because remember, we're in the classroom, students are, you know, everyone is wearing a face mask in the class. So as we work our way. Now we have opened some of our breakout rooms or lounges for students so that because we knew that that is not a practical thing for them to have to go to their vehicle or go to their dining commons, which of course we have. It is by Jackson College now. It's internal in-house and it's wonderful. But some students feel more comfortable bringing their food. So definitely they can do that in some of the areas, but it's defined by what's approved in every single area of what you can do. So it's kind of a nice spot for every single classroom within the building. So as you work your way through, it defines that. So. And then it also shows like what we're looking to do as you're coming into the classroom and leaving the classroom. In most areas outside of our labs, facilities will be coming in afterwards and we'll be fogging the areas, but in some areas you can't do that just because of the machines that you do work for deep cleaning as they're doing every day after class. So there. I just want to share that. Like I said, I want to share that really quick. I will share this link in the chat so we have it for there. And perfect. We're back to here. Does anyone have any questions about those forms? Again, there's a very long chat as we work our way through. Does anyone have anything to add? Heather, do you have anything to add to that, or Dr. Butler?
If they happen to come upon a classroom or something that has issues that they don't see, make sure that they're getting with one of us, that they're getting with one of the building coordinators, that they're contacting us to facilitate or figure out if they need new cleaning supplies or whatever. The other thing that we want to make sure that we're contacting is students are required to wear facial coverings in the classrooms. In that if you have a student that is not willing to wear the facial covering in class, you will ask them. And if they're like, nope, we're not doing it, then we ask that you call security and let them know and let them handle it.
Thank you, Heather, for that. And I see that note down there, Lori. I thought they had resolved that. So I will reach out to Heather Rakowski, Dean Rakowski, who had completed these, and see what we've got for completion in there. In my email follow-up, I will be sending each individual link in there, and I know that those access directly. It's weird in how the system kind of works for that. So we can kind of check that, but I will send that in my follow-up email. But I'll reach out to her too because that should work because it was working the other day. So I don't know what's going on. But thank you, Lori, for that check. So Mark, if you have your ID, so that's a great question with calling security. If you have your ID, on the back of that ID, that you'll have, make sure, especially since you're teaching on campus, you want to make sure they get your faculty ID. If you have not, you'll on the back of there, it's got the number, and then you can call either from the phone in your classroom, or you can call that direct line, the direct line that Heather posted in the chat. But it's right on the back of your ID. If you're like, oh, I'm not sure what's going on, it's right there. And there is a line where the second one is right to the officer who's around campus. So that's a great question for while you're on campus. So they're great, and they're around. They'll be walking around and checking too. Let's see.
Tom, you want to talk about IDs real quick?
Yes. So with IDs, so still with that same phone number, let me spotlight me so it quits doing what's going. So with IDs, if you have not received those yet, you will want to call that phone number and set up a time. And they'll set up a time when you're on campus, so that they're there because the Jets hangar. So as you come on campus and come around to Walker of the classrooms, the Jets hangar is where the security office is located. But they're not always staffed there because they're also running the checkpoint on main campus. But if you definitely need if you have your ID for that, make it that makes going through security, the checkpoint, really easy because they'll see, they'll see your name and they can check everything. So they don't have to ask for your driver's license or anything. But call that number and they'll set up a time. That is how Director Whipple has instructed us for anything. Now, if you've had an old ID and you've submitted your vaccine paperwork, if you chose to do that, you would get a new ID that would have that status on there. And that does, for the face covering policy, if you're meeting, that does change if you're meeting with a group of faculty members or staff members and you're all vaccinated, then facial coverings are not required. But that's the one change. But most likely, if you're on campus and meeting with students, right now face coverings are required for that policy. Let's see. So David, those are for like staff members, for example, like in the building coordinator's desk, there are those plexiglass barriers, or if you're at the Dex Coffee Company on main campus, they have the barriers. And then the classroom, there are not those barriers in the classroom because it is a facial covering is required in all classrooms, or some type of PPE is required in all classrooms. And Cheryl, if with your old ID, if you had submitted, if you had the choice of submitting your vaccine paperwork, if you did receive that, then you would get a new ID. They would have one ready for you at the security checkpoint when you came on campus.
You will still, sorry, Tom, I want to skip on that because they're not just printing the IDs. So make sure that you call the number, let them know that you will be coming on campus and that you would like to pick up your new ID. And that ID would be available for you at the check-in point the next time you're on campus.
Perfect. Thank you, Heather. And Holly, with that question with the JC face covering, we may have some extra in HR. So when you're on campus, you can come up to, George Potter Center on the second floor in Human Resources, right above the dining commons. And they may have some additional extra ones. I know we had some last weekend, and they still have those. And the books are, I don't know, because it's actually going to be called the Jets store moving forward with our switch that I'll cover in a little bit with questions for there. But our bookstore is moving to a more retail-based store and out of with our change from Follett to BibliU for our digital content provider that you received probably a decent amount of emails this week about BibliU. So definitely if you have questions there. And then security number is on the back of those new IDs. They just made the one change to those IDs as someone who has one of those. And we'll send some of those to the camp. I will be, and here's another note. I will be next week. I will be in Hillsdale on Wednesday, and then in Lanaway or Adrian on Thursday, and then I will be every other week at those. So Hillsdale will be the following week. I'll send my note for there that I'll be around on those days. So, but if there's ever time that you're looking to meet with me or have questions, check my calendar, and then I can see if I can always meet you where you're at, because I'm really flexible to where I can kind of meet you. I want to meet you guys where it's best for you. Marie, we were going to be covering that on that September 7th required training. So that will be with the MDOC, with our MDOC partners. So they will cover what is required and what you have to do every day before coming in. So they will cover all of that because it's going to be with our external partner at MDOC. So great question, though. Great question. Okay, so let's move in. Does anyone have any other questions? Great questions so far, guys. Everything has been great for that. I do want to cover one last thing really quick. And this is, I just want to show you what BibliU looks like. and what your students may see for your classes if your class used an e-textbook. So I just want to share that really quick of what it looks like. Kind of a note here. And in JetNet, there is a way that you can add this BibliU link so students will have direct access to the library. But BibliU, like I said, is a great system. Working the way through, of course, I'll log in really quick. If you're on campus or you've logged into JetNet, Jetstream, your email, it will log you in automatically because it knows you as the person logging in. But I am not right now, so I'm just going to select that, and it will take me to our login page. The login page. So you'll have the login page here, and this is what will happen with your students. So if they have an e-textbook, this is where they're going to see all of their e-textbooks. They can scan that QR code right there, or in the settings in the right hand side, if for some reason the QR code not, they can select the offline devices for students too, so that they can access their book on multiple devices. They can't access it at multiple devices at the same time, but they can access it at multiple devices. And it works really good. So kind of a cool thing of what BibliU looks like. And there was some great presentations this weekend as we look through. And as you can see, here's what the for students looks like. We have the table of contents. You can share, you can search for your books, you can highlight it, and it also does have a screen reader setting, and you can change the view of it. So kind of some great options out there. It does read to students and allows them to save it to a PDF, read it offline, and they can print up to 37 pages of a book. So that's on the copyright items there. They can print off pages if they need it, if they wanted to for their own personal use. I just kind of wanted to share the BibliU link and what it kind of looks like. So you have for students in JetNet, if you add an activity, it's right under an activity that you have from there. If you have any questions about what your book would look like or what it really does look like, please reach out to your lead faculty in your areas, and because they have accepted all the adoptions and they've really worked through it this week. BibliU is doing a great job with as we are coming into the fall. Does anyone have any questions they would like to ask? Or anything else for the good of the order? Okay, we're gonna finish up here, and I just want to say thank you all for coming today and asking all the great questions as we have from there. Also, you can review. You'll see a survey at the end, and I will also send a survey tomorrow, just so we can kind of improve that. So we can improve this and moving forward, and hopefully in the winter we can have one of these sessions face to face and one of them virtual, because I know that virtual does work for a lot of you, or if it's virtual is the best. But face-to-face sessions are always great. Like Dr. Butler was talking earlier of actually seeing you and welcoming you back to campus, and so that you can come to campus and see everyone. It's great. That's why if you need me at any time, please reach out to me. You can always set a schedule. Go to jccmi.edu/Tom, and that's my calendar, and that's how you can set up an appointment, virtual, face-to-face, phone, whatever works best for you. Or my office is located on the second floor right next to Heather, and Burt Walker. So if you have any questions when you're on campus, and that is what I have for today. I'm going to stop that recording, and